Welcome back, everybody. This is QuestionMarc.
And I'm Ame. Okay, last of the multicolored Final Fantasy commanders. Let's go!
We're throwing them in a tier list, and I'm going to try to move a little quicker because I was moving extremely slow last time. First, we have Gyat, King of the Dwarves.
Where's that Giot? It looks like Giot to me.
Hard to know. It was only in text, right?
Yeah.
No voice acting. Well, what does he do?
Well, for a red and a white, you get a 1/1 dwarf noble with double strike. And whenever a Giot or another dwarf you control enters, and whenever an equipment you control enters, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. I was giggling because isn't there a thing with like Gyattt?
Gyat.
Is it Gyat or Giot or...
You know what? I don't presume to know. I'm not going to... I'll only embarrass myself more the more I try to think about it.
Ah, well, it's funnier if we don't know and we're accidentally saying something like...
Probably. So, a 2-mana 1/1 seems bad, but double strike, that pretty much solves that.
Yeah.
And because not only is that, like, okay just to be a 2-mana 1/1 with double strike, you start putting anything on him, and that double strike is going to scale really well. And wouldn't you know it, he cares about equipment.
And dwarves.
And dwarves! Now, I think there's only 2 dwarves in this set. Him and one other.
Huh.
But if I remember right, the other one in this set, let me check. Is it dwarf or dwarves? No. Let's see. Dwarves. No? Okay. Well, I don't recall. I believe there is one other dwarf in this set.
There should be Lollyho.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? I've got one other way that I can find it real quick here, which is, I believe they're a white card, and they are a dwarf, and we'll sort them by release date, and then we'll flip the order of them.
There we go. Dwarven Castle Guard.
There's 2 dwarves because Tataru Taru is a dwarf, I guess. Okay.
I kind of like the this kind of dwarf over the ones that sort of look like mice people.
Yeah, well, this one says Lollyho.
Lollyho!
Is the dwarven greeting. Okay, so there's... Oh, and this one's also in one of the commander decks, the Final Fantasy XIV commander deck. Whereas this one's in the main set. So there's one common dwarf in the main set that can go along with him. But of course there's a lot of equipment. And a lot of them have job select. So there's a lot of good equipment out there right now. Even for draft, sealed, stuff like that. When those things enter, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. So it's not card advantage, but it's card selection, and that's pretty good. And 2 mana is extremely cheap to be coming out and doing these effects, to be getting you a 2-color deck. So, I mean, okay, also I've heard that this is the signpost uncommon for red and white. So the theme for red and white is... equipment.
Again.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the most common themes.
Sorry, teacher, I didn't study for the test.
Oh, okay. Well, because, yeah, he's the signpost uncommon. He cares about equipment in order to show you that equipment are neat. So, honestly, I kind of want to put him, like, near the bottom of good, but he's good.
He's fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing particularly wrong, but nothing especially right either.
Yeah, and of course,
He's fine.
if we go back a little bit here and look at white and red commander decks that include dwarf, there's 116 options, and some of them you may recognize in here. Stormkiln Artist is excellent. SRAM is perfect in an equipment deck. Torbrand's pretty good. Magda is really good. So there are actually a lot of options in a red-white dwarf deck, and this is just one that cares about equipment, and that makes it decent.
Yeah. Well, we really are speedrunning this, aren't we?
Well, I'm talking quicker.
Gladiolus Amicitia.
From Final Fantasy XV, one of the bros.
All right. So for 4, a red and a green, you get a 6/6 human warrior, and when Gladiolus Amicitia enters, search your library for a land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. And whenever a land you control enters, another target creature you control gets +2/+2 and trample until end of turn.
Okay, so he can't buff himself, and he can't give himself trample. That's a little underwhelming. But he does search for any land and put it straight onto the battlefield. So he is ramp, but he can also get you your Yavimaya. Let's see, Yavimaya Cradle of something or other. He can get you Yavimaya Cradle of Growth as an example. Each land is a forest. Or he can go get you, I don't know, maybe Nykthos.
And don't forget those triomes.
Oh, well, you can't play a Triome in a deck with him as the commander because he's only 2 colors, not
right.
3.
Well,
but if he's in the 99, then
plenty
yes.
of dual lands, though.
Yes, and
Or
Nykthos,
your command tower.
If you're playing primarily red or primarily green, you can make a lot of mana off of that. Absolutely the command tower. So there's a lot of potential there, but he does only do it once. And he is supposed to be the signpost uncommon for red and green, where the theme is landfall.
Not bad for a guy wielding a tea kettle.
I thought he was wielding a tea kettle because of foreshortening.
I know, I just wanted to make fun of you for it.
Yeah, instead he's wielding the broadest sword with the flattest tip. But whatever. He's a good guy. I've played the game with him in it a few hours anyway, and he's a himbo. He's a solid bro. So let's see. In Magic, is he better in the 99? He kind of is. Although you could do a thing where, like, if you have one particular land in your deck that is like the really cool land that you want to build your deck around for some reason, you can do that if Gladiolus is your commander. Because it is very rare to have your commander be a tutor. So you could do something like, I don't know, is it Animal Boneyard? No, it's not Animal Boneyard. No, Diamond Valley? Is that what I'm thinking of? That's what I'm thinking of.
Ooh, nice artwork.
Yeah, this is a $1,000 card from Arabian Nights, but it's legal in Commander. And if you own one, gosh, where do you play it? I don't know. Maybe here? You could build your whole deck around it if you want to, just sacrificing creatures, gaining life equal to their toughness. I don't know if it's that good, but, I mean, that's an option you could certainly do. Or one of my favorite lands of all times, Mikokoro.
That skeleton looks so annoyed with us.
Mikokoro. I love this because at instant speed you can make each player draw a card.
Neat.
So if you have pet favorite lands, you could play them in a Gladiolus Amicitia deck with him as the commander. But that said, I do think he's probably better in the 99. So I feel like I'm going to put him maybe around here. And on to the next one, we've got
Golbez!
Golbez Crystal Collector. Because Final Fantasy IV, this is one maybe your favorite game in the franchise?
Yes, Final Fantasy IV is my favorite in the main franchise.
Mm-hmm. And for a lot of people who are, say, of the millennial sort of age, this would have been the first, in a way, because Final Fantasy I was on the NES, and it had, success. It was somewhat popular, but
it was popular enough to save the company from destruction. What are you talking about?
Well, it's mostly in Japan.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, and then 2 in Japan, and then 3 in Japan. And then finally, for the Super Nintendo, they brought 4 to the States as 2 at the time they called it. And that was the first time when I remember seeing television commercials for Final Fantasy 2/4. I remember seeing friends playing it and people wanting to get the soundtrack, and the sprite art was some of the best sprite artwork in the industry at the time. And to people my age who are in their 30s, I think, this was the game that put Final Fantasy on the map. And then 6 just was a
ramped
very
it.
good sequel. It did that, but better in a lot of ways.
I do think that 5 didn't deserve to be overlooked, even though X-Death has a stupid name.
Yeah, I don't quite understand why 5 was not brought to the States. I'm not the right person to ask, but
Yeah.
regardless, what does Golbez do?
Well, for blue and black, you get a 1/4 human wizard, and whenever an artifact you control enters, you surveil 1. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more artifacts, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Then, if you control 8 or more artifacts, each opponent loses life equal to that card's power.
Wow, okay, so if you control 4 or more, you return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. 8 or more, each opponent loses life. Okay, so...
That's probably a reference... This is all probably a reference to, the 4 evil entities that are guarding each of the elemental crystals. And how those bitches each come back.
Interesting. So, on the one hand, 2 mana 1/4 in blue and black that also has whenever an artifact you control enters surveil 1 is pretty great right off the bat.
And we're passing the vanilla test with flying colors, albeit with a big back.
Yeah, strangely enough, but that's good on a commander where you're not really focused on like rumbling. You know, you'd rather be a 1/4 than like a 2/2 or some other combination. And okay, you want to have a number of artifacts.
Get them artifacts.
I'm thinking cards like Mox Opal.
Get your Soul Ring. Get your Mana Rocks.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of deck that if you have a Mox Opal... Geez, $153 is how much it's up to now?
Okay, if you have a proxy of a Mox Opal.
Yeah, so funny thing, I do have a Mox Opal. But anyway, I've been playing Magic a long time. I did not pay this much for it. I'll tell you that. So, things that have Metalcraft obviously do make sense in here, but some of the most efficient mana rocks, you may notice that Mox Opal costs 0, and so would then surveil you, and it will help you get closer to the whole controlling 8 or more artifacts. Then, to have a big trigger on him, to maximize that second ability...
You want a big fat thing in the graveyard.
You want the highest, power on an artifact creature that you can get, because artifact means that it'll synergize with what he's already doing. It'll count towards the number.
Oh, that's part of... You can use the surveil for that to get the big, to get the big boys in the graveyard, so you can bring them back and just make it everybody else's problem.
Exactly. So, like, the first thing that a lot of people might think of when it comes to like a big artifact creature would be Blightsteel Colossus, aka one-shot the robot. Yeah, because that's what 11/11 Infect will do to you.
Careful, though. If Blightsteel Colossus will be put into a graveyard from anywhere, Blightsteel Colossus goes into the owner's library, so that actually doesn't synergize with what Golbez is doing.
It doesn't actually work.
It's a non-bow.
Yeah, so don't play that one in your Golbez deck, even though that is the first thing that comes to mind for me when it comes to like a large artifact creature, that would be good to reanimate, lots of power and everything like that. But what I think might be the best card that you can play in there is going to be Phyrexian Dreadnought.
Ooh, Phyrexian. Oh,
check this
wow,
out.
I like that artwork.
Oh yeah, I love this artwork, and I don't know if I still have one, but if I did, I sold it for a lot less than $185. God dang it. Okay, do you want to read this?
Well, let's see. We've got a 12/12 with Trample. When Phyrexian Dreadnought comes into play, sacrifice any number of creatures with total power of 12 or more, or bury Phyrexian Dreadnought.
For the cost of?
1.
Yeah. So a 12/12 for 1, that's the best value that you can ever hope to get in Magic the Gathering. This card is $185 because there's a million ways that this and that on the same card are not fair.
Yeah.
Even though, of course...
9 ways to Sunday.
If you cast it for 1 mana and it enters as a 12/12, it's gonna, like, die. Or you're gonna have, like, 12 power worth of other things die. Of course. Although
I don't see how this would be the best thing to put there.
Well, I'll tell you. For one thing, you can include the Stifle combo, where when Phyrexian Dreadnought enters, you stifle its triggered ability, and you don't have to sacrifice anything.
Ah.
Next thing is, You can cast it right as a 1 mana artifact spell. When you do, you will surveil and you'll put it into the graveyard. Then once you've hit like the 4 or even better yet 8, well, actually when you've hit the 4, you can return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand, Phyrexian Dreadnought, and then when you cast Phyrexian Dreadnought again, it'll surveil again. So it'll allow you to repeatedly keep pulling it back and then playing it again to put it in the graveyard and surveil for 1 mana each time. And then when you finally get to 8 artifacts, each opponent loses life equal to that card's power, which is 12.
So basically, you're not really using it as a creature. You're using it as more of a component in a larger scheme.
Exactly.
You're using it to get your surveil on, and you're using it as an eventual surveil plus bomb.
Exactly. 12,
plus bomb trigger.
12 might be the largest power that you could get on a creature in this deck, and if it's not literally that, then it is on an artifact creature that only costs 1, so then synergizes with everything else that you're doing. I actually do wonder now, though, I want to do one quick search here, which is in a blue-black deck. Let's look at a creature with, and we'll sort them by power.
Are we demure in demure?
We are not. Okay, we need to go the other direction. Yeah, there's 5,694 creature cards that can be...
Jesus!
Okay, so that guy's not legal in Commander.
Woo!
Now that guy, though, hey, we've got a 1-mana 13/13. So it turns out...
Oh, and he's going straight to the graveyard because he gets -X where X is your life total.
Yeah, actually, both of those creatures then, the Phyrexian Dreadnought and the Death Shadow can be cast for 1 mana and then they go back to your graveyard. Except the Death Shadow won't trigger Golbez himself.
Ah.
But at least it does give you a target in your grave that you can aim at in order to drain your opponents for a bunch of life. Except here's a question.
Only applies while Death Shadow is on the battlefield. In all other zones, its power and toughness are 13.
Phew! Okay, that's what I thought. Because this is not a characteristic defining ability. This is a static ability. A characteristic defining ability would be ones like the asterisks that we saw on X-Death.
Yes.
Yeah, so that one does apply in all zones at all times. This does not. So, yes, you would drain your opponents for 13 if you have 8 or more artifacts on the battlefield. So
you can pull some nonsense with this.
Yeah, in fact, this guy's probably going to be rude. He's going to play a little bit like, I think I've sometimes heard it called like a drag race magic, where it's really about you just doing your thing as fast as possible, and you mostly ignore what your opponent is doing. Like, you're not trying to block their creatures, really. You're not trying to attack them, really. You're not trying to, destroy their artifacts and their creatures. Maybe a little bit, just to make sure you don't die. But it's really just about how fast you can get to the finisher.
If you don't like the rules, change the game. And the game this guy is playing is, I don't really need to put them on the battlefield. I just need to summon them long enough to cause you a world of pain.
Yeah. And so on
you
the
might
one
almost
hand,
call it a shock deck?
I mean, shock kind of means something in Magic already, but I think I get what you're talking about here. So on the one hand, I think that this is not necessarily the most fun Magic deck. I think it's kind of on par with like Yuriko, the Tiger Shadow, which can be a little frustrating to face because it just like drains people for a bunch of life sometimes. However, his potential is so high, I want to put him at the bottom of exciting.
Ooh, you're in the same tier as, spoilers, your brother.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in part because it's so cheap. This actually has a lot of potential in CEDH. Not necessarily doing all the things that I just said, but like the most powerful thing that people do in CEDH is Thassa's Oracle and Demonic Consultation. And I'm not going to go into a big thing about these two cards, but know that Thassa's Oracle is the most common win condition in CEDH, where you just win, as long as you have milled your library, basically. And the most popular way to mill your entire library is Demonic Consultation. Let me look at a version that's a little more readable.
I think the cat has decided to be a nuisance.
Oh, he's working on it. So Demonic Consultation is blah blah blah. Mill your whole deck, exile your whole deck.
I like that artwork though.
Oh yeah, me too. So for 1 mana at instant speed, you can respond to Thassa's Oracle's ability of like winning you the game if you have no cards in your library. So basically, blue, blue, black, and if you have these 2 cards, you just win. For that reason, and that being the best and most popular win condition in CEDH, Golbez being blue and black, he's the right colors for a CEDH deck.
Ooh, dang.
And then you can surveil in order to try to find those 2 cards, and you can do the surveilling by casting mana rocks and other things that cost you roughly 0 mana. Oh, actually, I didn't even mention Seat of the Synod. Seat of the Synod, it doesn't just cost 0 mana, it costs -1 mana each turn. And it's an artifact that will enter. So yeah, you can play Seat of the Synod and a couple other artifact lands, and honestly, this guy seems to have so much potential that I want to put him up in exciting, even if he will not be the most fun to play against, unless you're in CEDH and you like that kind of thing.
I will be interested in watching this guy's CEDH career.
Yeah. So, next we have Hope. Finally, we have Hope.
Is that Hope Estime or Hope Estime?
Hope est.
Or is it Estime?
Estheme.
Estheme?
I deal with issues of self-esteem all the time. You know? But in any case, he's from Final Fantasy 13, a game I did not play, and I don't think...
Nope.
No, you didn't either. All right. Well, what does he do?
Well, for a white and a blue, you get a 2/2 human wizard with lifelink, and at the beginning of your end step, each opponent mills X cards, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn.
Huh. So, it's a life gain deck, and it's a mill deck. It requires you to gain life in order to have the payoff of milling people. And I know that there are some players out there, maybe a lot of players out there, who really are bothered by getting milled. Every card that goes from their library to their graveyard just makes them steam and stew.
Oh, yeah. I'm not one of them, but I know people.
Yeah, and same here. I'm not one of them, but I know people. Because as far as I'm concerned, every card that you mill is just the same as a card that's in your library, basically. If it's like in the bottom half of your library, you're just not seeing it this game, and that's fine. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Because
if it's a resource that's inaccessible to you, then it's not an asset.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Plus, a lot of decks these days, if a card goes to your graveyard, that's useful to you.
That's not necessarily the end.
Yeah, I mean, how many cards have we seen today where it's like, okay, fill up your graveyard and that's good? Like a lot.
A fair number.
Yeah. So actually, milling your opponents might be a drawback, in which case you wouldn't want to gain life. And gaining life doesn't really have much inherent value on its own, because you don't win the game by gaining life unless you've got Test of Endurance or Feldar Guardian. So you probably, or Sovereign or whatever. So maybe you have those things, but that's a pretty boring way to win the game, and he doesn't do anything else, except for do some things that people don't like. He passes the vanilla test, but, like, okay, you might put him in the 99 then of a blue-white life gain deck, but even then, only really if you get some kind of benefit off of milling your opponents, because it could be a drawback. And you don't get to choose who you do it to, it's each opponent.
So, it sounds like this one is either better in the 99 or questionable.
I'll tell you what he is. He's lame.
Oh!
Yeah,
salt.
He's all the way down in lame. I think this is not fun. I think this is not even productive most of the time. Like, when you are milling your opponent, why? The only reason to mill your opponent, well, I mean, if your commander says something, like Captain Nagothrod steals creatures out of graveyards, so of course you mill people, you steal
Sink 'em
stuff
and
out of
loot 'em.
graveyard. But he doesn't do anything with your opponent's graveyard, he just fills it up. So if you're just milling somebody, it only matters that you've milled them when they get to the last card in their library. When you've got them from 100 cards down to 0, then it finally matters and you've killed them. Congratulations.
I guess you could do that if you had Jumbo Cactar with like lifelink.
But Jumbo Cactar is green.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of there are a lot of cards that do milling in these colors. I mean, Bruvac comes to mind. I think that's how you spell it.
Oh yeah, this one.
Yeah, whenever you would mill someone, you mill twice that many cards.
I guess unless you're going hard for mill, this is questionable.
Even if you are going hard for mill, that itself is questionable. Because if you are making your opponents lose life, at least your opponents are also doing that. And so, life totals also only matter when they hit 0, right? Except no one is helping you mill your opponents to death. So you're playing by yourself. And you're gaining life while doing it? That sounds super boring and not even good.
All right.
So, trash talk.
All right. Fire of Science.
Ignis Scientia? Yeah, that's pretty much Latin, right?
Yeah, that's science. That's fire science.
Okay, now I played Final Fantasy 15 and he was my favorite character because he was the smart one. He wears glasses. And he also learns recipes as you find new stuff throughout the world, like different kinds of fish that you can cook. And so it encouraged me to do a lot of the mini games I thought were fun, and collecting things and unlocking things. Those are things that I love in video games. So he's a little dry, of course, compared to the other characters, but his food isn't. All that said, what does he do?
Well, for 1, a green and a blue, you get a 2/2 human advisor, and when Ignis Scientia enters, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them on the battlefield tapped. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. He's also got a power called I've Come Up With a New Recipe.
Oh, I love that.
For 1, a green and a blue, and a tap, you exile target card from a graveyard. A graveyard, anyone's graveyard.
Yeah.
If a creature card was exiled this way, make food.
So that's pretty great. I honestly wish that there was some kind of mechanic where, like, it has to be a new recipe somehow, but to make, like, better food, but I don't care. I mean...
I've turned your monster into our next meal.
Yay! And honestly, what are the odds that you're going to be exiling 2 different monsters with the same name over the course of a game? So the whole new recipe thing, it kind of doesn't matter.
Plus, there's more than one way to prepare there's more than one way to cook a cactar.
Yes, there is. He'll show you. He'll find them. So that last ability of paying 3 mana and tap to make a food and exile a card, that's not very good. Honestly, I think it would be like kind of borderline decent if it didn't cost that extra colorless. I think I would probably like this guy a lot if it just costs 1 mana less. He's so close. But it's like 2 mana to untap and exile a card, and it has to be a creature in order to make a food. And then food don't really do anything unless you also pay, 2 mana?
Yep.
And sacrifice it.
Tasty dough.
Exiling cards from a graveyard can be useful, it can be good, it can also sometimes be locked up and not an option, and sometimes it's not a creature. And doing that for 3 mana and tap on a creature, it's just kind of a lot of resources to invest. At least it lets you do it at instant speed. But it's that first ability, though, where you do ramp yourself as long as there's a land in the top 6 cards, which is pretty good. 3 mana 2/2 fails the vanilla test. So I want to like this guy, but he's not that great at anything.
Spread himself a little too thin, you might say?
Yeah, too little butter on so much bread.
Dang it, I'm hungry now.
Oh, I know, me too. Maybe we'll go get some food when we're done. Okay, so
I vote for sandwiches.
sure. Does he go in good? Does he go in better in the 99? I'm thinking he might be better in the 99. I'm gonna put him probably about here, right next to his friend. They're buddies, although I think that they also kind of butt heads the most.
Because you've got, the science guy and the brawny guy.
Yeah, so he has to be like correcting. Actually, you know what it is? Is that he's the Donatello, he's the Raphael. We saw Prompto the other day, he's the Michelangelo. And then we're going to see Noctis at the end, and he's the Leonardo.
Of course.
And honestly, that's a really clean fit.
Donatello is my preferred of the turtles.
Oh, same here. That's why Ignis is my favorite of the road tripping bros of Final Fantasy 15. He's the Donatello of the group. And it also genuinely might be a contributing factor to why purple is my favorite color.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were something that I was in since, I could read. So, Ignis, I mean, you're not that. You could play him as a commander, but I wouldn't, honestly. Not enough rewards here. But making food repeatedly, finding yourself a land, these are decent effects. If you get him in your sealed pool or something, he'll be helpful. But yeah, better than 99.
Okay, here's a popular one. Jenova, Ancient Calamity.
And she's an alien!
For 2, a black and a green, you get a 1/5 alien, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, you put a number of 1/1 counters equal to Jenova's power on up to one other target creature. That creature becomes a mutant, in addition to its other types. Whenever a mutant you control dies during your turn, you draw cards equal to its power.
Wow, okay, so...
Oh, you died? Well, you're gonna fuel a new generation of badassery, okay?
Yeah.
I never thought of her as a blonde.
Huh. And yet, check out that art.
I must be wrong. Also,
Wow.
Why does she look like a sea creature?
I believe she's kept in a tank of fluid, suspended in this tank of fluid.
She is, but the veins and organs and stuff, it looks like coral, so...
It kind of
What are we
does. And you have, like smoke or bubbles or something in here, and you can see the top of the tank.
Can we zoom in a bit? I want to see if we can read what's on her helmet.
No. Other than Jenova.
I think I see the word PlayStation on there.
What? Okay. However, I have another idea here. If we go quickly through the Scryfall Tagger, Jenova, there. Still can't. No, still can't.
Something, something, something.
This is like brackets, and then is this like a serial number or something? 1%, 91010. I don't know.
Basically, though, Jenova's deal is that she's an alien corpse that's kind of a disaster to a planet and its inhabitants, and she was mistaken for a race of beings that lived on the planet called Cetra, or ancients. They thought that Jenova was an ancient, but she's not.
She's an alien!
She's an ancient, she's an alien, not an ancient. Jeez.
And if you try to mix her DNA with a human, then they end up being a mutant. And that might be useful if you want to make a super soldier program, but it's not useful if you, say, want to have them not know that they're some, genetic creation whose mother is in a tube. Someone might be upset about that kind of thing.
Someone might really get weirdly attached to her and weirdly obsessed with the idea of her being an ancient and him being an ancient.
Yeah, just hypothetically here. We're not naming names. What was the ancient race called again?
Cetra.
Cetra. Oh, something like that. Anyway, as a magic card, a 4 mana 1/5, underwhelming. Uh, but once again, if you want to have some effects, some abilities that are cool, and you get to use them a lot, you do want to invest a little bit more in the toughness than the power. She's not here to rumble. She's going to sit in her vat. I'm actually kind of surprised she has power at all, except that she needs it for the other ability there of putting counters on, what was it? A number of counters on up to one other target creature, and you make them a mutant. Okay, so this is another deck that seems perfect to put equipment in, but also maybe auras and stuff. Just buff her power. Since we're dealing with +1/+1 counters, you can always include your classic hardened scales. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You can include your, let's see, Ring of Colonia. Colonia Ring. Where it gives her a +1/+1 counter every turn as long as she's green.
And she is.
And in this case, giving her trample, that's nice. Auras, one of the simplest ones is just Raincore. Adds 2 more power. Trample, only costs 1. And if she dies and it falls off, you get it back in your hand. So those are great. And then that just means that you're putting more counters on your mutants, on your creatures that become mutants each time. And then when those mutants die, only during your turn. That's an interesting little hoop. That it only draws you the cards during your turn, but you draw cards equal to their power, and you are buffing all these creatures by her power, so honestly this synergizes pretty well. But I think the last piece of the puzzle is you want to have instant speed sacrifice effects. So that, like, actually, I'm not even sure if you need that. You know what? We saw that Skull Clamp a minute ago, and Skull Clamp is one of the best cards in Magic's history, just because it's 1 mana to cast, 1 to equip, and then yada yada yada, draw 2 cards. It only sometimes matters that it only triggers when your creature dies, and it helps your creature die by making it lose a toughness. And in this case, it matters that the Skull Clamp makes them gain a power, so you draw another card. So
Oh yeah, this one she wants to have Skull Clamp. No wonder they made an art with her helmet on it.
Yeah, it's strange. Okay. Is there a way? No, there isn't a way. I was thinking, there's a card from Future Sight that's an 8/0.
Yo!
So that has some problems, and then it has no toughness, so it enters the battlefield and immediately dies. And the problem there is, I don't think it's a mutant. So it wouldn't draw you many cards, unfortunately. So you probably don't want to play that.
No.
But, I don't know, there's... Okay, I'm not going to do a deep search right now.
Sephiroth could help you.
Sephiroth could help you, but Skull Clamp will definitely help you. So it's actually really cool that they made Skull Clamp in the Genova style and put her, so it goes perfect.
I think that's a context clue right there.
Absolutely. Also, there are a few cards that care about mutants, by the way. I was trying to make a mutant deck not too long ago, but I didn't find there to be enough, really, but part of it was because some of them are black, and I was playing a green-blue deck. I don't think so. No, she's got all kinds of other stuff. No, she's got a clavicle, though. And what was the other thing? Oh, yeah. Also, I'm still of the opinion that in 2026, mark my words, we're going to get an X-Men set. It hasn't been officially announced.
They're probably going to have to wait to announce it until, well, first of all, until this set is out the gate. And also until they're done hammering out the contract details with the mouse.
Well, so we know that the collaboration between Marvel and Magic is a multi-year collaboration. And they said that the Spider-Man set that's coming out this year is not the only one. It's just the first one. They're doing at least one other set. And personally, I think the best candidate for a set of Magic in the Marvel Universe is X-Men.
That makes sense. You have characters at different levels of power and with all these different crazy abilities. Yeah, that scans. Plus, I would really like a Nightcrawler card.
Oh, hell yeah. Magneto and Wolverine. I mean, we already got Wolverine technically from that secret layer that no one could get when they wanted it. So personally, I'm of the opinion that I think that this year we're getting Spider-Man, next year we're getting X-Men, and the year after that we're getting Avengers. And that might be why we got Storm and Wolverine, in the secret layer earlier this year, and we got Iron Man, Captain America, and Black Panther in that secret layer as well, because they would otherwise be in an X-Men set in 2026 or an Avengers set in 2027. And so, since we're doing a Marvel crossover and we don't have Iron Man and Captain America and Wolverine for a couple of years, I think they wanted to get some of those characters out there
grease the wheels
well
up a bit.
ahead of time. So that's my speculation. Mark my words. I'm calling it that they're making an X-Men set in 2026 and an Avengers set in 2027.
All right.
Okay, all
Anyway,
that said,
where does Genova
how good
go?
is Genova? I think Genova is great and fun. I think Genova's exciting. How much so? I would probably put her... You know what? I'm going to put her next to her son. In fact, there. Because I think she's going to be more fun than her son. She's two colors. She cares about mutants.
Are you saying she's a MILF?
She's very weird. I don't know. I'm sure that if I did an unsafe search for Genova, I could be... Yes, that there will be something out there.
Moving right along.
But I think we're going to move right along. On to Joshua, Phoenix's Dominant from Final Fantasy 16.
Phoenix strikes me as being a switch.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, for a red and a white, you get a 3/4 human noble wizard, and when Joshua enters, discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. For 3, a red and a white, and then tap, exile Joshua, then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control, activate only as a sorcery.
And transforms into Phoenix, Warden of Fire.
A 4/4 with flying and lifelink.
Oh.
And this is a Saga Phoenix here. For the first and second, you get Phoenix deals 2 damage to each opponent. And on the third turn, return any number of target creature cards with a total mana value of 6 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Exile Phoenix and then return it to the battlefield front face up. Okay, this is fun because we've got revives and we are handing out those Phoenix Downs today.
Oh, yeah. I mean, okay, so first off, vanilla test.
We are passing it.
Yep. Then it has an enters ability, so he does something immediately upon entering. Even if somebody kills him, you discarded a couple of cards and drew a couple of cards. Is that great? It's alright, but it's setting you up for the reanimations that will come later.
That's right.
And then you do have to pay 5 mana and tap it in order to get to the other side. But the other side seems pretty good. And it does kind of work out that you play him on turn 3, you do some stuff on turn 4, and then the next turn you do the ability. And then what I think is great here, besides being a flying, life-linking 4/4, you're in the colors that can give it haste the most easily. So you could absolutely have... And you probably do, actually. I think this is a good deck to have things like... what is it? Battle Driver? Is that its name? Well, I didn't...
Well, that's not how you spell it.
Well... Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Ogre Battle Driver. Want to read that?
Whenever another creature you control enters, that creature gets +2/0 and gains haste until end of turn.
Yes. So I think that'll be great in a Joshua Phoenix deck, in part because it'll mean that Joshua, when he transforms, he'll be a 6/4 flying lifelink with haste.
Hang on, what color was that card?
That card is double
it's red.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wasn't sure. Sorry.
Yeah. Also, there's a Glimmer. Do Glimmers have Glimmer in their name? No, I guess they don't. Wait.
Yeah, they do.
This one does. Inquisitive Glimmer. That one does too. Wait, why are we seeing just white and blue? Okay, there's a red glimmer, I think. Red glimmer. Um, yeah, this is what I was thinking of.
He's a doggo.
Yeah, enduring courage wouldn't you know it? Same mana cost for whenever another creature you control enters, it gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. Wow! Except when this one dies, you can return to the battlefield as just an enchantment. So, let's see, and is it the same? Wow, it's exactly the same creature, except for it can have a second life as an enchantment only.
So go for the glimmer, I would say.
I'd say play them both. Because
Why
also
choose?
they do stack in that they'll give +4/+0. And of course, if one of them dies, then you can bring it back with the Phoenix on its last ability. Because also, when the last ability happens, you're returning some creature cards to the battlefield. If you're doing that, you want them to have haste and 2 more power, right? One of them could be Ogre Battle Driver, and it will still count. By the way, if you return multiple creatures from your graveyard to the battlefield at the same time, then Ogre Battle Driver will see them and will give all of them haste. And then also, at that same time, he'll transform back into Joshua and do the whole discard 2 cards thing. But this way, he'll be a 5/4 with haste on the turn, instead of having to take that turn off again.
Yeah, I like where this is going.
Yeah, so honestly, the Ogre Battle Driver and the
Enduring Courage.
Enduring Courage seem like maybe the best cards in the deck in a way. And I didn't even mention the whole lifelink on your commander when it's this big flyer. I've said before that life gain on its own, not super relevant. But when it's tacked onto something that you're already doing that's kind of relevant, then it's great.
It's like salt. You don't eat salt by itself.
Yeah, no. But also, when this is dealing 2 damage to each opponent, you gain that much life. So it's 2 to your 3 opponents, so it's 6 life. So, yeah, on chapters 1 and 2, you bop each of your opponents for 2 and gain 6 life. And then every time you hit them, you gain more life. Yeah, honestly, this seems pretty great.
This seems solid.
Yeah. And there's a lot of synergies with life gain that you could put in here. There's a lot of synergies with damage dealing. Gosh, to put in stuff like, City on Fire is one of my favorite recent cards. Recent from 2 years ago. But if a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage.
Woo! That's a lot of mana to pay for it, though.
Yeah, but it has Convoke that can help you get that cost down. Tripling this damage would mean you triple the life gain. Same thing here. Tripling this damage will triple the life gain. So, and then you could play other versions of it that are a little weaker, like Dictate of whatever his name is. The Twin Gods. Where, yeah, if a source would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. This one is super risky, though, because it affects you as well. Your opponents hit you for double damage. Ouchies. It does have flash to mitigate that a bit.
That's your fourth deep cut.
Okay, fine. There's also an angel that does that that's red and white. I don't remember what her name is. Gisela, that's her name. Yeah, her. It doubles the damage that you would deal and halves the damage that you take. So, with that all said, how good is Joshua? He's good. Is he going to go all the way up in exciting? I think so.
Dang, we're getting all the exciting ones today.
Yeah, I said from the beginning that the monocolor ones were going to have a handicap, and the multicolor have a much better chance of making it up here, and it has. Let's see, I want to say somewhere around, like, here.
All right, yeah. Who's next?
Who's next is Judge Magister Gabranth. Final Fantasy 12.
I only know a little bit about this guy because I didn't get all the way through Final Fantasy 12.
I heard he's the signpost uncommon for black and white, so let's see what he does.
Well, for white and a black, you get a 2/2 Human Advisor Knight with Menace. Whenever another creature or artifact you control dies, put a 1/1 counter on Judge Master Gabranth.
Okay, honestly, this guy, dead simple. And pretty good. Vanilla test?
Passed.
Yep, plus Menace on top of that, plus Knights are a pretty good, creature type to base yourself around. You can play a lot of knight synergies in the 99, or vice versa. You could play him in a knight deck, and he's probably good, although you really want to play him in aristocrats. Are you familiar with the term?
No.
Okay. I think it's partially based on the, blue comedy joke about aristocrats. Are you familiar with the comedy joke?
I've heard about it, but I don't actually know it. I've heard people referencing it, but I don't actually know it.
If you are okay to hear a really filthy joke, do like a YouTube search for the aristocrats, and you'll find a bunch of different comedians have different takes on it, including like Bob Saget from what was he on?
America's Funniest Home Videos.
Well, yes, that, but also...
Oh, wow, now I'm teleporting back to the 90s. Be right back, folks.
Yeah. Why can't I think of, Family Ties, Family Matters, All in the Family, Step by Step? I don't know. It's one of those freaking things. It's in San Francisco. Any case, he is the most, tame comedian on 90s television, and he's the most foul comedian on 90s stand-up stages. So, the aristocrats. It's a reference, and maybe you'll get a little bit of the hint of it when an aristocrat's magic deck wants your creatures to die for glorious benefit of the deck. You're going to be playing lots of creatures and getting them killed brutally and for profit. So, and wouldn't you know it, whenever your creatures or artifacts die, you put a +1 counter on Judge Gabranth, and that's great because he has Menace, so he's very likely to turn those counters into commander damage on your opponent. And it's so easy to have a creature or artifact you control die. I mean, besides the Skull Clamp that we saw earlier, there's Deadly Dispute, I think is the one I'm thinking of. Deadly Dispute. You can sacrifice an artifact or creature to draw 2 cards and make a treasure, and wouldn't you know it, that treasure can be sacrificed. Sacrificing treasures or foods will trigger him to get bigger. Ah! And of course, you can play Smothering Tithe, and you'll get treasures for him. You can play Revel in Riches, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you'll get a treasure. Which is pretty great. And then those treasures, of course, will also trigger him. You can play altars, like the best one is usually Phyrexian Altar, where you can just sack a creature to add a mana. And so, of course, you're getting counters, you're adding mana. There's just so many things that you can do. Now, he is a little basic in that he doesn't draw you cards. He doesn't do removal. He, doesn't have any kind of defensive ability, with ward or hexproof or anything like that. But I think he's got a lot of things going for him. So I haven't been using the good category that much today, but I think he's good.
Okay, I'm back from the 90s. Sorry that took so long. I could...
Are you okay?
Yeah, I was just playing the theme song to America's Funniest Home Videos from that time period, and...
America,
America, this is you, do, 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 do. Sorry, I just had to...
Yeah. All right.
I told you I was teleporting to the 90s.
Yeah, you were. I'm glad to have you back, though. Because now we're going to be looking at Kefka.
Woo!
Court Mage. And on the one hand, I'm still kind of bummed that they didn't make him a clown. But on the other hand, I guess he just looks like a clown.
Yeah, he's not an entertainer. He just likes to dress like that.
Which, by the way, I'll show you a little secret here real quick. Open Scryfall Tagger. And I put Motley in his Scryfall Tagger, which is what they call the clothes that a lot of jesters and clowns wear, but it doesn't mean that they are a jester or a clown, just that they dress like one. So I put Motley in there, and then a few other cards that I found, because Motley tends to be brightly colored clothing, mixture of patterns and colors, often asymmetrical or done in patchwork.
Hang on, is Kefka showing us his tum?
I think so. I think he might be showing us belly button right there. Is that oh, okay. This is that art, and if we can go in a little closer, I think it is.
I think he's showing us his tum.
Yeah, I think that is his skin, because also I do remember some of his other art where he's wearing like half the clothes of the other characters, or at least he's put half of the clothes up here and half of the clothes down there, and he left out the middle. So, that said, what does Kefka Court Mage do?
For 2, a blue, a black, and a red, you get a 4/5 human wizard, and whenever he enters or attacks, each player discards a card.
Ooh.
Then you draw a card for each card type among cards discarded this way.
Huh. Alright.
For 8 mana, each opponent sacrifices a permanent of their choice, and then Kefka transforms. This can be activated only as a sorcery.
Oh my.
And now, because they obviously couldn't put the entirety of Kefka's final boss form on here, they just stuck to the top half.
Uh-huh.
And he's
Kefka, Ruler of Ruin.
a 5/7 with flying. Whenever an opponent loses life during your turn, you draw that many cards.
Holy jeez.
The end draws near indeed.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, let's just marvel a bit at the Yoshitaka Amano art here.
Woof!
And here.
Woof!
By the way, I believe these two are both new pieces by Yoshitaka Amano that were commissioned for this set.
They're fantastic. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
And now let's look at the anime.
Also, okay, this one they covered up his belly. Okay, come on.
He looks way too happy to be a jerk.
Yes, and if we transform him... Okay, that does look very much like an anime antagonist.
Yep.
Oh yeah, look at those abs, right?
Yeah, how
You're
many?
looking?
That's like 16 abs.
Yeah, jeez. You're looking, I know it.
Yeah, I'm looking.
That's fine, you're allowed.
I can't help it.
Also, I think under Kefka Palazzo here, which I had no idea that was his last name, Palazzo?
Is it Palazzo or Palazzo?
Well, he seems to be taking reference to like a French carnival style, kind of. Like Renaissance carnival, and or maybe Italian kind of Renaissance, in which case a double Z in Italian is "za," like in pizza. So, also I think palazzo would be like of the palace.
Huh.
So that would make some sense to me.
Oh yeah, that does add up.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different art of him here.
He's a
that's very
popular
fun.
guy.
Yep. But I wanted to see if... You mentioned that they couldn't fit all of his art on here. And I think that they did on a couple cards. Well, that's him dying.
Yeah.
For tragic arrogance. Okay.
Spoiler alert for the final frickin' boss.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Spoiler, in Final Fantasy, you defeat the final boss. Or you can, at least.
Well, his boss form is a lot... That's his final boss form, and his final boss form is a lot bigger than that. You've played Final Fantasy VI. I'm sure you recall how big that damn thing is.
Yeah, okay, so I think the problem here is that somebody hasn't taken the effort to tag him in the Through the Ages collection. I think his full size is in here somewhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, wait.
That would be difficult.
Kefka...
That's just Kefka.
Okay, we're taking a quick scroll to try to find it. You point him out to me if you see it. Well, no, oh, I might be thinking of Sephiroth then.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, okay. Never mind.
Since we've gone this far, we might as well look it up.
No, that's the only other place it could be. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Kefka final form. So, like that?
That's just the top part. You first have to fight through... There we go.
Oh!
Okay, so down here we've got hell. We've got basically the devil, like you would see in Paradise Lost. Over here we've got kind of a...
Fuck?
Over here, we've got kind of a Purgatorio sort of dealy. Over here, we've got symbolic.
Paradiso.
No, here we symbolically have. It's more like a Pieta sort of deal. You know,
Okay.
the limp body, the Mother Mary above it.
Uh-huh. And then finally,
This is Paradiso with Kefka as God. This guy
Okay.
has himself both as God, as Jesus, as whoever the shit this guy in the middle is,
wow. Okay,
and possibly
so
and he's rising out of the back of the devil, but it doesn't look like him. So
okay, so the question is this represented on a magic card in some way?
Probably
I don't
not.
think so.
where would you even start?
Yeah, it would. The only place that it would make any sense at all would be like on a saga.
Or on a meld?
Oh yeah, a meld maybe. But okay,
But yeah, we're just showing the top half here for simplicity's sake.
Okay, so let's get back to the analysis though. So 5 mana 4/5 fails the vanilla test.
Yep.
But when he enters or attacks, everybody discards a card. Now, making each of your opponents discard a card is obviously, pretty good, but you have to as well. So there's a mechanic in Magic that fits rather appropriately here. Let me go blue, black, red, madness.
Oh yeah.
So madness, if you discard this card, then you can basically cast it for its madness cost while you're discarding it. So Kefka will actually set up a lot of madness effects.
Or delirium effects.
Delirium. Yes. So I think that's kind of the flavor of why you also, as the player playing Kefka, discard a card, because look, he's not making friends.
No.
He's not winning through sanity.
No, he's doing this because it amuses him.
He's the Joker, baby. Also, if he's a human, why does he have pointy ears?
Magitech experimentation. It's also why he's like that.
Oh.
Reportedly, he used to be a lot more solemn as well as sadistic, but he was ruthless before, but now he's nuts on top of being ruthless.
Okay. Well, then really that's just the setup to the punchline, which is you draw a card for each card type among cards discarded this way. So the card types in this case are going to be land, creature, enchantment, artifact, planeswalker, kindred, battle, instant sorcery, and I think that's all of them. So this is a deck that actually might encourage you to play some kindred cards, some battles, just so that you can discard one of those as like a goof to draw more cards off of his ability. I think that would be funny.
Yeah, it would.
Let's see, battle, and I'm going to arrange them by, how about EDH Rec rank? So what are the best battles? Yeah, you can play Invasion of Segovia, the plane where everybody is really tiny. So you have these Krakens that are just 1/1s, and a Phyrexian it's just his foot. To me, that's funny. Discarding that so that Kefka draws you more cards because everybody else is discarding a land or something like that.
That just reminds me of a line from Kefka. You are not like you are no more to me than the dirt under my shoe. No, you're even lower. You're the dirt underneath that.
Oh, wow.
He's very petty.
Yes. And also, if you wanted to play, like, Kindred, I guess it would be, like, Wizard Kindred, maybe? Human Kindred? Actually, yeah, can I do type Wizard? Okay, there's a couple. So, yeah, you could discard Stream of Unconsciousness or Sage's Dowsing or Diviner's Wand, and it'll be 2 different types, and that will increase the number of card types among cards you discard this way. Hell, play artifact creatures, play enchantment creatures like summons. They will count as more types that you're discarding to get that number up. And that's, even the setup and the punchline, that's all what you do in the mid-game. When you enter, when you attack, eventually you're paying 8 mana.
And when you do,
each opponent sacrifices a permanent, but then also you've got a 5/7 flyer that when your opponents lose life on your turn, you draw that many cards. So very likely you're going to be attacking with him on the turn that you do this for 5 damage and drawing 5 cards. What the hell?
yeah, what the hell?
This is not fair.
That's Kefka for you.
Oh, very rude, very mean, very powerful. And I think I said in a previous video that the supervillains in these sets are some of the most exciting.
Yep.
And that's going to hold true for Kefka. Kefka's going up in exciting.
Have we put a single Kefka card below exciting at this point?
Well, I think there's only 2, but no. Let's see, where exactly
It's not just
in exciting? I'm thinking here.
Homeboy Kefka might only be playing second fiddle to Sephiroth in terms of villain popularity.
Yes.
And to be fair, Sephiroth is sexy.
Yes. And but Kefka is also playing a 3-color deck that is going to encourage you to do something weird with it, like playing all creature types matter, or all card types matter, and then turning into a powerful card draw engine, whereas Sephiroth is just all about death. It's all about killing with him.
It feels like Kefka's playing a bigger game.
Yeah. Okay. So, the next one here. Oh, all right. How many times did I click on Kefka? I clicked on him a lot.
A lot!
Okay. Kuja, Genome Sorcerer. He's from Final Fantasy IX. He's another villain, although I hesitate to say who's the, super final villain in that game. I don't know.
Me either. Honestly, I liked his personality better in Dissidia. I mean, when I was playing Final Fantasy IX, he was just like, oh, geez. He looks like he's going to be something different, but he's kind of acting like basically every other Final Fantasy villain. But in Dissidia, at least, he is so fussy. In fact, Kefka describes him as a living hissy fit.
Wow. I'm glad someone did already tag him as having a bare midriff, so if they didn't, I would. So,
all right.
What does he do?
For two black, a red, and 3... Blech, I need to try that again.
Mm-hmm.
For 2 mana, a black and a red, you get a 3/4 human mutant wizard. At the beginning of your end step, create a tapped 0/1 black wizard creature token with whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this token deals 1 damage to each opponent. And then if you control 4 or more wizards, transform Kuja.
Into Trans-Kuja Fate Defied.
Oh, Slay Queen.
Yeah.
For 4/6, that standing at 4/6, this avatar wizard gives us, if a wizard you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that.
Yes, this is it. This is the power I've always wanted. Wow. So, I mean, first off, is it any surprise that someone who dresses like this turns out to be trans? No. I don't think it is. That's not derogatory, by the way. I think that's awesome and fun. And I love the colors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He goes from these cool blues to these hot pinks.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Also, we have some of the wizard soldiers in here, which is appropriate because he does make wizard soldiers, basically.
Get them wizards.
Mm-hmm. So, mutant again, interesting. Unfortunately, it doesn't really synergize with Genova because he's black-red and Genova's black-green, so you can only do in a black-green-red mutant deck. Forget it.
I don't think there's a big enough room for their egos in one deck anyway.
Yeah, well, Genova is, I think, actually really quiet, but there's hardly enough room in the world for Kuja's ego and something else.
Yeah, Genova's actions speak louder than her words, and her acolytes do too.
Yeah.
Kuja, however, has to be his own hype man here.
So that said, in a deck like this,
has to be their own hype person.
Oh, perhaps. I don't know. So in a deck like this, I imagine that you are spending turns 1, 2, and 3, probably ramping, although you could get out Kuja turn early because of, your Soul Rings, your Rakdos, Signet, stuff like that.
Your command towers.
Maybe as early as turn 3, you could be playing this and then making a wizard on that turn for free. And then you're making wizards on every subsequent turn, and you're possibly even playing the Black Mage Staff that we saw earlier, or there's like a Circle of Wizards or something.
Brawn.
Yes, absolutely. You're playing
Black Walt's number 3 if you're feeling spicy.
Absolutely. So you're playing every black and red wizard card that you can, including, yes, once again, Harmonic Prodigy, because this is a red deck. And so you're making lots of wizards, and he transforms at just 4. And he counts himself as one of the 4. And he makes one of the 4 on the very first turn.
So
he's gonna
he comes out, he's halfway there.
Early. And when he does, he's doubling your wizard damage. Now, he doesn't have flying, he doesn't have menace, he doesn't have,
He does have a monkey tail, though.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. I think that's why he's not a human, he's an avatar.
I'm not exactly sure what his deal is. I happen to know that Zidane also has a tail and a trance mode.
Oh,
and
right.
now that I think of it, why can I not remember her name?
Garnet?
No, not Garnet.
I don't know then.
Terra. Terra also has a trance mode, so maybe they're... I haven't played enough of Final Fantasy IX to figure out what their deal is, but maybe they have a...
I don't know.
Well, Terra's deal is that she's half summon monster and half human, so maybe that's what's going on with these two, or something like that. I don't know.
Look, I couldn't tell you, but I could tell you that they must have taken some inspiration from, like, Dragon Ball, maybe? With Zidane in particular?
Wouldn't surprise me.
Okay.
But then again, it's pretty hard to find an anime protagonist that isn't somehow inspired by Sun Wukong.
Yeah. So, that said, I'm going to cut to the quick here. I think this is the best commander of this archetype, of the wizard commander kind of archetype, because it not only makes wizards, but also rewards you for having made wizards by doubling their damage. So it is the setup and it is the payoff. And then the rest of your deck can just be non-creature spells that trigger wizards a lot, including ones that make wizards. So I am very much excited for Kuja. So let's see. And actually, I'm going to put him a little bit above Black Waltz number 2. I'm going to put him maybe... I don't want to separate Genova and Sephiroth. I'm going to put him right there.
Because, boy, would there be a hissy fit.
Yes. So, next we have Lightning, Army of One.
Yay, we're finally halfway through the alphabet.
Oh, my. And she's pre-ordering for a lot, I guess, but I don't know. Everybody's too expensive. Well, she's the protagonist of Final Fantasy 13 and the, sequels to Final Fantasy 13, which there are a couple of them, I guess.
2.
Okay. Well, what does she do?
Well, for 1 mana, a red and a white, you get a 3/2 human soldier with first strike, trample, and lifelink.
Oh my gosh.
And whenever lightning deals combat damage to a player, until your next turn, if a source would deal damage to that player or permanent that player controls, it deals double that damage instead.
So, vanilla test?
We are not really passing that today.
Yeah, and that is a test that's supposed to determine if a creature has sufficient combat stats. This is perhaps the most dangerous creature in combat that I can recall having seen. First strike, trample, lifelink, and that stagger ability, they're incredible. They're scary.
I love that stagger ability. That is terrifying.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's powerful in ways that we have never seen before, honestly. Because sure, you do have to deal combat damage to a player, and that's usually actually a pretty big hurdle. Your creature has to lose Summoning Sickness. She doesn't have haste. She doesn't have, ward or anything like that. So, but there's no way you aren't playing Swiftfoot Boots, Lightning Greaves, Lava Spur
Lightning
Boots.
Greaves.
Yeah, put Lightning Greaves on her, for sure.
She's got her name on them. Of course you gotta have them.
Absolutely. You're gonna give her haste, especially if she, dies and you have to recast her later. She's gonna have haste. Come on. And then, so you can get that ability triggering pretty fast, pretty reliably, I bet. The trample and first strike help. You can always put various equipment on her that'll add to her power. That's all great. But then if you do hit somebody, gosh, until your next turn, you double all damage that player and all their permanents take? Ugh! I mean, the important thing is here that it doubles the damage that they would take not just from your stuff,
but also from other stuff. So you're basically creating a target. You're basically making one player into everybody else's punching bag.
Absolutely. Somebody gets like
smoked.
Yeah, somebody gets like punched in the dick, and then they're bowled over and getting just pummeled by everybody else for a turn. And it is not fair. It is not nice. She is mean. Although that's lovely. So other powerful things that you can do with her include Seize the Day. Seize the Day! We want to read that for us?
Untap target creature. After this main phase, there's another combat phase, followed by another main phase. And it has flashback.
Yeah. So you cast her. Maybe you don't have haste. Heinous, I know. But you cast her like on turn 3 or something, and then turn 4, you attack with her. You hit someone for 4, or for 3, first strike, trample, lifelink. You gain 3 life, so you don't even have to worry about like blocking and stuff. She's gaining life. And then your opponent's taking double damage. And then you take another combat, and you untap her, and you do it again. Oh!
Oh no!
Because then she's dealing 6 damage on the second combat, and then damage to them is doubled again.
It stacks?
Yes, it stacks.
Oh, that is so mean.
Yeah, so now they're taking double until your next turn. And what else could we put on that? We could put, I don't know, lizard blades. We could give her some lizard blades. What do lizard blades do?
Double strike!
Youch! So instead of just first strike, she has double strike then. So you can hit for 3, then hit for another 6. So you've done 9 commander damage, and you've set up the 2 doublings. And if you put both of them at the same time, because Lizard Blades sticks around, then you can hit them like 4 times in one turn for double damage.
Woo!
That person's dead.
Do not let it get that far.
Also, the one last thing that comes... Okay, so that's all kind of getting towards, like, Magical Christmas Land, though, where, like, you know, the sun shines on you in particular and all the planets align and everything.
Lord willing and the creek don't rise.
Yeah, although I don't feel like that many things have to go right for that to work out, but, you know, put them in there so that they could happen. But even if none of that stuff happens, and you've just got, like... I don't know, you've just got, like, a flying creature with, I don't know, like, what's a not Suntail Hawk, that's silly. Healer's Hawk, maybe?
Yep. Sidebar, how long have we been at this?
Oh, we've been at this an hour and a quarter. Okay, so we'll probably find another stopping point soon then. But just as an example, Healer's Hawk, you got it out on turn 1. It's a 1/1 flyer. Okay, easy. You hit somebody with lightning with the first strike, and then any of your creatures that don't have first strike will be doing double damage.
Whew.
So Healer Hawk, super basic, will be hitting for 2 and gaining you 2. Whew. So, I'm just saying. Oh, you can give her Sword of Fire and Ice. She'll hit and then set up the double damage, and then the fire will deal twice as much. So she's incredible. Okay? Like I said, one of the scariest creatures in combat I've ever seen. So, is she maybe too good? It might be a little boring for some people. I think I'm still going to put her here.
Just under Kefka.
Yeah. Okay. Then, let's see. How about we take one last break before we set up for the final run?
Yes.
Okay. Because I've had a lot to say.
I'm running out of mana to tap here.
Okay, fair enough. And we've still got quite a few to go. There's just so many, ladies and gentlemen, fellas and fellettes. There's so many. So, we're going to take another pause. We're going to take another break. And we'll try to finish this up. Say a little prayer for us.
I think we're going to need it.
Yeah. All right. Catch you in the next one.
Bye-bye.